and welcome to Berwick Spotlight Speaker Series. My name is Inga Milda, and I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing at Berwick Academy. And this is our second talk in a series that is designed to shine a light on current educational topics that are important and relevant to the Seacoast and beyond. Each talk is live and open to the public. Speakers are Berwick Academy faculty, staff, and their esteemed guests. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening for a very important and timely discussion on race and equity on the Seacoast. We're going to be focusing this evening on the National Black Lives Matter movement and its impact on the Seacoast. We'll reflect on Black, Indigenous, and people of color on the Seacoast, and we'll also be talking about using theater, music, and the arts to expand conversations around equity. Some viewers have already submitted questions during the registration process, and they're covering a wide range of interests. We also hope that you will submit questions this evening live, and during the discussion, and with time permitting, we'll hopefully address as many of these questions as we can. In order to do that, if you want to ask a question directly during the live conversation, you can access the chat by clicking on the 3 vertical dots in the view page or the pop-out chat button on the YouTube live event dashboard. This event will be recorded and available after the event. Facilitating this evening's discussion is Buensuceso, the Director of Cultural Competency at Berwick. Michael has deep experience as a leader in this field. Mr. Buensuceso's guest this evening is Najee Brown, who is an actor, playwright, and activist. Mr. Brown recently relocated to the Seacoast from Brooklyn, New York, and oversees the Soul series at the Seacoast Repertory Theatre, which focuses on presenting Black, Indigenous, and people of color narratives. Najee Brown also produces his own music, wrote his own play, The Bus Stop, which recently performed and was featured at the Seacoast Rep in Portsmouth. He directs and has danced at every stage from the Apollo to the Carnegie Hall. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic to Michael.
Thanks, Inga. One of the interesting things about my job here at a school as a person who is responsible for diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives is I get to have conversations with some really interesting people. And none more so than my guest tonight, my guest and friend, Najee Brown, who I met in February of 2020. Just before we all went in quarantine, and we were just reflecting on that. It seems so long ago. And Naji and I were talking about a program that we wanted to do here on campus, along with the Green Acre Baha'i Center of Learning. And Naji was introduced to me through Robert Sapiro, a current parent and their administrator. And pretty early on, I recognized and realized a connection. And one of those things that we connected on was our roots. The both of us are transplants from New Jersey, New York, and I always find it interesting the stories that people have to share on how they arrived at the Seacoast, especially folks of color, given the demographics of this area, mostly white, almost all white predominantly, whitest areas in the nation. How do folks of color end up in this space? So I guess I wanted to start off there, Najee. How did you end up here, a Brooklyn native, transplanted onto the Seacoast?
In 2019 August, I was directing a musical called Henry Box Brown, co-directing a musical and choreographing a musical, Henry Box Brown in Edinburgh, Scotland. I was there for a month, the entire month of August, and I had this strong feeling in my gut that I didn't want to be in New York anymore. I didn't know why. I did not know that the pandemic would happen. I didn't know anything. So I called my mentor, Jeff Albert, who is the school administrator, not the administrator, the director of schools at the Green Acre High School and some other some other schools across the country. And I asked him, I said, I don't know what to do. Jeff is the type of person that you can call when you need direction in your life. So I called Jeff, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I know I don't want to be in New York. And he's a really busy guy, so when I texted him, he answered right away. And he was like, call me. And I said, hey, I don't know where to go. I felt like in Edinburgh, I was experiencing a lot of things that was making me question the route that I was taking, especially with theater, and it made me question what I was really aiming for. The decisions that I was making wasn't the best, and it felt like my life was like getting to where I wanted to get to very quickly. I was meeting with millionaires and billionaires, and people were telling me, oh, I want to help you, and just nothing felt right. Nothing felt right. So I called Jeff, and I was like, Jeff, and he was like, go to Green Acre. Just like that. Go, you spend a month there and see if you like it. And I decided I would stay 3 months there. And I hated it at first. Not that I hated it, but it was just going from crazy city, and I'm very active in the city. Like I was always at museums and libraries and teaching students and doing all this stuff, and I came here and I'm just alone with my thoughts in this like 100-year-old cottage in Elliott, Maine, and the nearest store is like it feels like a mile away. You got to walk through a dirt road with no sidewalk. And but a conversation that I had, I was thinking about leaving around November. Beginning of November, and a conversation with a fellow artist that I met up here. Her name is Kayla. She changed my mind. She said, you should stay. I feel like you have a lot to say, and this area has never seen the type of art that you do. So try to make it happen. She said, the one thing about the Seacoast that she loves is that anything that you want to happen, you can make it happen. Like New York, it's really hard to break into theater and arts. And I did, thank by the grace of God. But yeah, she told me to do that, and I did it. And I jumped, and I never looked back. And I decided to make this my home. So yeah.
Yeah, and you live in Kittery.
I live in Kittery now.
At this point, the quote unquote Brooklyn of the Seacoast, which you and I laugh about. Can you set the record straight? Is it
it's
the
not,
Brooklyn?
It's more like Dumbo. It's like Dumbo in Williamsburg, but that's not Brooklyn. When I say I'm from Brooklyn, don't think Williamsburg. I'm from Canarsie, East New York. Like, yeah, it's not necessarily what you would consider the good gentrified part. So like, yeah.
But just beyond the bridge, right? Just
right,
beyond the bridge.
right by the bridge. So it feels like I'm living in Dumbo. Like, I always wanted to live in Dumbo, but now I'm living in Dumbo in Maine.
So what's that like, living in Kittery as someone who identifies with the BIPOC community in a largely white area? What's that like?
It's lonely. I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes you can feel as a black person. I don't know if you feel this as a person of color, Michael, but like you're in a fishbowl. You know, everything I do is like, oh, look at what he's doing. It's like, is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? And I just think it's because of the type of person that I am. Like, I'm very outgoing. I'm very, like, upbeat. I try to be. But sometimes it can be very lonely because there's that, I'm just being very honest, when you're dealing with another person of color, there's that understanding that you're different sometimes. And I think people in New York City, white people in New York City, are used to interacting with black people in a different way that people up here are not. Because there's so little. There's no black community up here. There's some now developing, which is great. You know, people are getting together and coming together, in response to what's been going on. However, it feels sometimes very lonely and it can feel very, feels like I'm always teaching. Teaching.
So how does this place become home for you? How does this place?
Well, I feel like I have a mission. I feel like I have a purpose. And the fact that there is not many of me, I can do something that's never been done before. That's how it can become home. I can bring other artists up here who look more like me, and we can create things. Or I can just apply a different mindset to people, or a different perspective, right? So it's home in a way that I'll say this. This is better. Growing up in Brooklyn, I've always lived in these tight corners, right? I grew up in a house where there was 21 people and a dog. Probably never said that publicly, but it was a 4-bedroom apartment, and there was so many people. You go on a train. I just came back from New York. So many people. You go into the store. So many people. For the first time ever, I feel like I can free my mind. I can have comfort. And even though I'm alone, and I don't think I'm always going to be alone, I feel like I can breathe in a way that I've never been able to breathe before. My friends came up here in August to see the bus stop. And they got to stay in the area, and when they just felt freedom to just walk outside the house, go to the beach, go, to the mountains, go in the woods, wherever they wanted to do, they could do it. And that was something that was never an option for them ever before. That it's so powerful. And what it does to your mind is it allows you the freedom to create. It releases, it's hard. I mean, when I first came here, I was always looking over my back. Oh, people walk too close, It's New Yorker in me, right? And just growing up in that type of environment where you always had to protect yourself. You could never let your guard down. Something that's interesting, I don't think white people realize this, that when black people leave each other, we always say, be careful, or let me know when you get home safe. I say that all the time out here, and people look at me like I have 3 heads. They're like, why wouldn't I get home safe? But in New York, that's a different story, right? So I want my children to be raised in an environment like this. I don't want them to go through what I have to go through, or to have that level of stress and weight. When I look at some of the children of color that I will work with, and some of the schools, and lack of a better term, the hood, one time I went to a school in Brownsville, or a school in the Bronx, and you see these 6-year-olds, and you can already see how their environment has conditioned their bodies. They look like they've been living for 40 years because of the things that they constantly have to go through. It's funny that people can think that oppression doesn't exist, right? But when you go to these places, you just feel it. You just feel it. I'm sorry. I don't even know what you asked me. I've been going over too long. It's all good. Yeah.
It's all good.
But this is how this can come home. And I just wish that more people who look like me, people who look like you, can experience a place like this. Like, look at this. 15 minutes away from hiking, 15 minutes away from the ocean, and go to the beach and be there by yourself. What? What is this?
We're definitely fortunate.
I know.
We're fortunate.
And I wish more people got to experience it.
So we're sitting in quarantine in the spring, and it becomes late spring, and all this stuff happens nationally. All of a sudden, our focus goes to names like George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blake. What's going through your mind? You're here, right? You're here. You're not at home.
Yeah.
You're here. What's going through your mind?
It was the toughest thing not to be at home. And I had just went through surgery late April, so there was no way I was going home. I got my gallbladder removed. So I was still recovering. So during that time, I was physically sick, but I was also mentally not feeling good. It was hard. One thing is, just social media was everyone's pretty much saving grace during that time, and then now all of a sudden it's everywhere. You're just seeing these videos over and over again, and then like you see another video and you're like, is this does this happen before? Like I don't like, when did this happen? He's like, oh, this just happened, and you're just feeling it all over again, and all you can think to yourself is not again, not again, not again, not again. Yeah, it was hard. It was hard to be here, and I didn't want to be here during that time. I definitely wanted to be in New York with my friends and with my family, and like just being able to hold them during that time, because it honestly feels like public lynchings. You know, you're just watching this happen over and over again, and you're just wondering, when will it stop? I don't think people understand that when a black person sees a video like that, it triggers something in our mind that brings us back. It's almost like we just see all of slavery repeating itself over and over again. And the fact that these people are just shot down like they're wild animals or something, you can't even like, you're not even, the people who are doing it doesn't even seem like they're feeling their humanity, right? I wrote, one of the lines I'm writing my new play, it's like, if you want to take someone's humanity away from them, you have to deem them as a monster. It's like we're almost like monsters that need to be tamed. Yeah, it was hard to be here, and I didn't want to be here.
Yeah, as shocked as I was seeing it, I also wasn't surprised.
No, you're not surprised.
Right? Because, I mean, not too long ago, in 2014, 2016, the names were Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Rolando Castillo.
Yeah.
Right? Why do you think this time may be different? Or is it different?
No, it's definitely different. It's different in a lot of ways because we were all at home. And one thing that happened was with this coronavirus, COVID-19, we all started to feel how connected we were, right? We're looking at numbers of how many people are dying a day. And now New York City becomes a place where you're seeing all these people who are supporting each other, and everyone's just like, shout outs to the essential workers and doctors, and then this happens, and you're like, oh no, not this crap again. Like, seriously, I thought we moved from this, and now we're back here again. But the fact that no one can say that they didn't see it, and if they didn't see it, it was their choice. So now that everyone's watching, and the world has, everyone has, the world is just so close now. I think before you can choose whether you want to feel someone else's pain or not. But when anyone can die at any time simply because we all can catch the same disease, and no money, no race, or anything can like separate that, then it hit differently this time. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's this sense that one may have the benefit or the privilege to look away.
Yes, and that's what you see a lot here. You see that a lot here. This bubble. This is a place where people come when they consistently want to look away. I don't know if they intend to, but I mean, if you're living in this type of environment, unless a protest. I mean, before the rally started happening here, I don't think anything like that would ever, people would ever have an interaction like that or experience like that here.
So what's been the impact on the Seacoast?
Yeah, I think people are, their bubbles are being busted. Like, I think they're finally waking up. And I think people are asking, well, what should I do? And I think people are finally realizing that this is a universal problem. And that, I think people are just waking up, Michael. I really do. I hope so. There is a lot of pushback, too, because a lot of people are in the Seacoast are just like, well, we never had a racism problem. And it's just this idea that the North was never racist. But where I lived in Green Acre, there's this stone that says the what's the word?
Piscataqua.
Thank you, forgive me. Well, that river, and there's a stone there that says that slave ships were built there. So the North has constantly deny their participation in slavery and in racism, right? Like to act like it does. And we're living in that now. Well, there's no black people up here. Well, why isn't there any black people up here? But black person comes, they feel safe. But black person comes, do they feel welcome? Are you going to look at them funny? I mean, the other day I walked out of my house, and a white guy, as I'm walking out of my house towards the bridge, white guy shines a flashlight in my face, like, hey. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm not trying to hurt you. Like, just walking to work. That kind of stuff. That kind of stuff can make a person go crazy after a while. They're constantly treated like a criminal, even though they didn't do anything. But people are waking up. And one thing I do love about the Seacoast is that right now there's over 100 people who registered for this conversation because they care. It's important to them. And I until I moved here, I did not see the trying part of white people. This is one of the things I didn't mention in our previous conversation. Until I moved here, I did not see the trying part of white people. There's a guy who I love dearly named Patrick Patterson, who adopted 2 black children, and he does everything he can to make sure that his children will grow up in a safe environment. He tries to learn. He brings his children around black people so that they don't lose their culture and their identity. He tries to do it the right way. Yeah. And sometimes it's impossible not to make mistakes. But, he's trying to do it the right way. There's a lot of people, Robert Shapiro, who you mentioned, is trying to do the right thing. There's groups like White People Challenging Racism. They're trying to do the right thing. Is there a lot of guidance on what the right thing is right now? Probably not, because people are angry. But we do have to realize that white people who are not, who don't care about this, I say that you are the missing link, right? You are, you play the biggest role in this fight from racism.
So it's interesting. I'm still stuck on this image of that stone at Green Acre. Yeah. Right, almost hidden in plain sight.
Hidden in plain sight.
Right, a famous quote by Dr. Joy DeGruy.
Yeah.
One of our favorites. But expanding more on that conversation of the role of white people. Yeah. Right. Talk to us more about what in your mind, what is the role of white people in all this?
That's an interesting question. Well, you got to do something, and it starts with your children. First of all, you have to do the education. You have to do the research. You can't just rely on what you were taught in schools. If I was relying on what I was taught in schools, I would probably think I was nothing, because in history, like when they teach you history, you get like one day about Black history, unless you go to a predominantly black school and they celebrate Black History Month. My high school didn't believe in celebrating Black History Month, so this, according to most schools, the history doesn't include me, so I wouldn't be important. So I had to re-educate myself on who I was and what it means like to be American and how important I am. Now you have to re-educate yourself on your role and the history that you was misinformed on. It's not okay to just sit there and think that Columbus discovered America, and if we tear down a Columbus statue, like, oh, that's you're destroying my history. No, the history's wrong. Your history is wrong. Do the research. Don't you want to be a better person? Like, stop just accepting bullcrap. Sorry if I'm not supposed to say bullcrap on this show. But yeah, like, come on. Don't you, and get over your own, get over yourself. Get over your own guilt to be a better person. Like, understand that if one group is oppressed in this country, then anyone can flip the switch at any time and you can become oppressed. That's how serious this is. Right? Your money won't save you. The moment they can create laws and legislation to hurt any group of people, then they can do the same to you. And nothing can protect you. You know? Yeah. And you have to realize that. You have to realize that. And that's your role. Your role is making sure that you re-educate. Stop thinking that your children are way too young to learn about this stuff. You know? Because there are children in this country, I'm not even talking about in a third world country, in this country that are feeling the oppression every day. So Why is it fair that those children get to experience oppression every day, and your child doesn't even know what the word oppression means? That's not fair.
Talk to me a little bit more about, you'd mentioned a little bit about white parents who've adopted children of color.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that and that. What needs to happen there?
Yeah, I think it's very important that well, those children need to. It's important that if that's the route that you're taking, that those children need black mentors. They need to see people who look like them doing great things. It's hard to probably raise black children in this time, and honestly, you see the most. It's so sad. I'm very passionate about children. That's my thing. I always taught. I still work with children to this day. I'm very, very passionate about children. I'm very, very passionate about protecting children. It's just you need to. I don't know what it feels like to raise black children in this world. And I am very scared about bringing. I'm very scared of bringing children into this world because of that. But if you are raising black children, they need to see how valuable they are. They need to understand how beautiful they are. They need to know that you love them, not just because of the color of their skin, but because of who they are. And they need to know that there are strong and beautiful black people that came before them, that they may not feel connected to right now, but they are connected to.
Who are a couple of your favorites?
Of black people that came before me?
Historically.
Oh,
a couple
God, there's so many.
Give me three.
Your
top three.
Malcolm X, definitely. And when I say Malcolm X, I'm talking about Malcolm X has the most beautiful transition that a man could ever go through. People, when I say Malcolm X, people get so afraid because of what he spoke about earlier in his career. I want to say his career, but during the late 50s, early 60s. But really pay attention to the 1964, 1965 Malcolm X and what he spoke about and what he was close to doing. I love that just simply because he was human and he was so powerful. And the way he spoke was just, I just wish I could have met the man. If I could have shook his hand. God, Dr. King, man, so smart. And there's so many different sides to this man that if we would just get over the illusion of just who he was supposed to be and treating him like Jesus Christ, we would see everything that this man was going through, especially towards the end of his life, right? These two men came to these interesting places at the end of his life, at the end of their lives, and what he was trying to do with the Poor People's Campaign, and how that was going to revolutionize, everything that this guy was doing, we're still fighting for right now. And if we could just look back to him and look back to Acts and read what they wrote and study what they were talking about later in their lives and not get caught on the glorious moments, then we will find some ingredients to our success right now.
Mm-hmm. Number three.
There's so many. Stokely Carmichael. Stokely Carmichael coined the term Black Power. And I'm reading this book on him, and I'm studying him right now. And I'm studying Black Power right now, and what it meant to the people who were part of it, Willie Ricks, Cleve Sellers, Stokely Snick, the whole thing. And they understood something about black people that we didn't understand at the time. Is that black people needed to understand their inherited nobility. And that's what Black Power was, right? Before, if you call a black person black, they would hate you for it. But when they said Black Power, that word woke up something in black people to realize that they were powerful and that they needed to be empowered. And that they needed to, that word and that term stopped gangs from fighting one another. Isn't that crazy? And they began to wake up and see how noble they were, how great they were. Black Power was connected to Africa. Black Power helped stop apartheid. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. But definitely Stokely Carmichael. I've been listening to a lot of his speeches, and don't worry, I don't hate white people. That's not, if you're looking at these and go, well, he must hate white people. No, it's just important for me to understand all aspects of my history. All of these great men and women. I wish there were more on the women, black women who've done the great work in history, like Fannie Lou Hamer, like Ella Baker, like Coretta Scott King, who low-key was probably more doper than her husband. And we don't acknowledge them. You know, Rosa Parks, we treat her like she was just sitting on a bus. But she was the secretary of the NAACP.
Mm-hmm.
She was the Martin Luther King of her hood. Like, she was dope.
Yes.
And we need to acknowledge, I mean, right now this movement is, shout out to black women, it's black women are doing their thing. So, we've even though have denied them the privilege to shine, they shined anyway. And that's what's happening right now. So, yeah, none of these guys would have existed without the women that were behind them, or the women that were beside them, or the women that led them. Mm-hmm. You think Martin would have been able to go wherever he wanted to go? You know, who do you think he spoke to about these speeches and these concepts? And yeah, you'd be a fool to think it was just him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the words actor, playwright, activist are the three ways that you identify yourself. How do those three coexist? Education, arts, this work in equity. How do all those three sort of work in concert in your current work now?
Yeah, I have the privilege of being an actor. I'm more of in my head, I'm more of a director-producer. I like the producing director side a lot more than I do the acting, but I have a voice and I might as well use it, right? The playwriting started everything. I was always an activist. In 4th grade, I had this teacher named Mr. Mitchell. Shout outs to Mr. Mitchell. He started me on everything in 4th grade. Like, was teaching me black history in 4th grade. Taught me about Emmett Till in 4th grade. Taught me, like, this guy was incredible. And if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be the person that I am today. There were lots of people, but he planted the seed when I was 8, 9 years old. So Mr. Mitchell. But yeah. Wait, what was I talking about?
Well, I think the question is, what's that connection between arts and plays and production with equity work, social justice work? Yeah. Where's that connection? How's that connection for you here?
Well, okay, it all started with The Bus Stop. When I wrote The Bus Stop, which is a play, if you don't know, about 5 African-American women waiting at a bus stop where the bus takes them to a prison where their male loved ones are incarcerated. I knew that I could not just perform that piece without doing some action. So what we did, me and my friends got together and we talked like, well, what can we do? We did a clothes drive to fight against jury bias, so that incarcerated men and women will have professional clothing to wear to their court dates. Because once you see them in their uniform, you already deem them as guilty, right? So we did that, and just writing the play alone, I didn't realize the type of play that I was writing. Now, my father was incarcerated. My parents were teenage parents. He committed a crime 3 months before I was born, and that led him to be incarcerated for my entire childhood. So I grew up going back and forth to prisons, and watching my mother go through this as a teenage mother. She's a very powerful woman. I love her so much. So when I wrote the play, it was to honor my mother, it was to honor my grandmother, and it was to honor my grandmothers, because I had uncles that were incarcerated too. And to honor my aunt, Elizabeth, and my aunt Patsy. I wanted to show what they were going through these fictional characters. But it was just very important that there was some kind of activism that went along with that play. Now, it's hard to consider yourself as an activist, and sometimes I like to say that my art is my activism, because it's you know, I'm not trying to do this to be seen. I'm not trying to do this to make a career out of this. this kind of fell on me, and I denied it for such a long time, because people try to make careers out of it. And a lot of people out there right now trying to make a career out of a man's death. I hate to say it like that, but they are. I don't. If I didn't have to speak about these things over and over again and relive the trauma over and over again, I wouldn't. I just want to write plays. But I realized that, like you said earlier, you asked me, how could this be home? I have a deeper mission and purpose. And through these plays, I want to share these stories that haven't been shared before. Mm-hmm. I want people to realize, like, a different perspective of life, American life, that they've never seen before. So,
talk a little bit more about, I know you're doing work at the Seacoast Rep.
Yes.
Soul Series.
Yes.
If you could mention a little bit about that. But also I'm interested in your work with Green Acre and your conversations with law enforcement.
Oh,
so
okay. Well, you want to go first?
Let's go with Soul. Let's go with Soul Series and then go with law enforcement.
Okay. Well, Soul Series, shout outs to Seacoast Rep, one of the best theater companies in the world. I had to do that. But I was approached by Brandon James and Ben Hart to lead something. Seacoast Reps, they're literally, I want to say they're the trendsetters. The moment this happened, and they were actually wanting to do this before, but then COVID happened and they were just trying to survive. And once they were able to stay afloat, they realized that, yes, creating a series that primarily focused on the stories of the BIPOC community was essential. So they called me, and I had a conversation with Joe Kelly. Shout outs to Joe Kelly. And when I told her about it, she goes, "You need to do some town halls." So I was like, okay. When I spoke to them again, I was like, hey, we need to do some town halls. Like town halls along with the plays. So this series, right now, the first plays that will be opening up, we did the bus stop in August, but now we have Stokely and Martin, which I just explained about, and we have Nevaeh's Brother opening up in January. And those are, like, you come, you're going to watch Stokely and Martin, you go to intermission, you come back, you're watching a totally different play. I don't know if this has been done before. Kind of feel like I'm starting something right now, but it's like a double feature in one night. Both plays are about an hour long. And after that, we're going to have discussions. There are going to be talkbacks. There are going to be education about what you just watched. I'm going to partner up with I'm definitely probably going to partner up with SAC or whoever wants to talk more about, because it's education. For me, I don't believe in entertainment. I believe in education. I feel like you should educate the mind, motivate the will, and stir the heart. And that's the three things that I do when I create art. Educate the mind, motivate the will, and stir the heart. So, the conversations, the town halls. I'm also started something recently, should air soon, it's called New Season, where I'm bringing in local artists of color. We had an episode that we just shot with Paul G. from Brooklyn, New York. Kaya Mack, she's here in the Seacoast area, and Anthony has a studio called The Block. Shout out to them that just started too. They're two, him and his sister are two Asian young people who are doing incredible work, and they're trying to bring hip hop, the real hip hop culture, to the Seacoast. So just working with them, yeah. So all of these things. Soul Series is going to open up your mind. When you come to a Soul Series event, you're going to be entertained, but you're also going to walk away learning something. It's here to feed your soul. When we say SOL, we're talking about the sun, right? There's no soul without the sun, and we're all people under one sun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you and I had talked about your work with law enforcement through Green Acre.
Yeah.
If you can share one with the top aha moment from that work, the top aha moment from that work in those conversations.
Well, just to explain, we've been we've been having dialogue and conversations with law enforcement, starting with the Elliott PD. Chief Elliott came to Robert, and during June, after all this happened, he really wanted to speak about, just wanted to have a conversation with us. So we've been having sessions with the police department, and also sessions with the prosecutors at Rockingham County about oneness, Yeah, we're talking about race. And one of the most aha moments was watching this officer who came in ready with fire in his eyes. Like I don't like Black Lives Matter. I don't like this. I don't understand the riots. And just watching him transform. That's the power of dialogue, right? This officer came in. And he says he's he's traveled and stuff like that, but he did. Once we start talking, you begin to see the scales fall off his eyes about racism. And one of the things he said, and it touched me so deeply, was I came in thinking that I knew, and I realized that just because I thought racism doesn't exist, or because I had never experienced racism, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And we talked about 9/11, he said something like, well, 9/11 was the only time this country ever came together. And I said, well, what about the Arab Americans who were bullied and teased and beat up and harassed? And he was like, whoa, I didn't realize that. He didn't realize that there was a Black national anthem. A couple of them didn't realize that there was a Black national anthem. I'm like, I grew up in school singing the Black national anthem. Things like that. The conversation got really deep, really deep. And I don't advertise the work that I do with the law enforcement because it's working people to people, like it's really about building these relationships. And as a Black boy from Brooklyn, to sit there and have a conversation with law enforcement, it would have never happened. My father was incarcerated. The cops harassed my uncle. My family members have had cops busting their doors over and over again. Like I've seen it all. I've seen it all. But now I'm here, having conversations with law enforcement, watching the work slowly be done, and seeing the change of hearts. Who would have thought? And it's working. It's working. I can't sit there and say that the world is being saved right now and that these men and women will never do something racist again, but they now walk away with a different perspective that they never had before. And if we would just sit there and have conversations with people, just imagine how different the world would be right now. So yeah.
There's a performative aspect to a lot of the personal pieces of action when folks put up a Black Lives Matter sign or a flag or what have you, or organizations. How do organizations, particularly workplaces organizations, how might organizations get past the performative nature of those pieces?
Well, you need to... I'm big on this, right? I think one of the things, I was having a conversation with this civil rights leader, Willie Ricks. He was with Stokely. He knew Stokely Carmichael, who he knew Martin Luther King. Black economics is so important, and it's something that we don't realize. We need Black businesses. Black people need that. We need to buy Black. We need to fund these Black businesses. If you really want to make a difference, if a Black person that you know has a dream and has something that they want to do, give them that privilege that you have and guide them and teach them how to open up their own business. How to build, don't be afraid of Black businesses and Black communities developing all around the world. We need that. We need that. We need that. I mean, like Stage Shell said something like, said, do something nice for a Black person, even if they don't deserve it. That's I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is we need more Black economics. Don't be afraid to shop Black. Don't be afraid to help build Black businesses and Black companies, and we need that. We need that. If you're going to do that, put your money where your mouth is. Allow Black people to come and work for you, and don't be afraid of that, right? Am I saying something that makes sense right now? Like, stop, get past the whole, oh, I'm just going to fund this, I'm going to fund that, and you don't even know where the money's going. Build a genuine relationship with a Black person. Why is it that a lot of people here say that they don't have any Black friends? And stop asking and expecting Black people to do things for you for free. Like, literally, develop a relationship with a black person. And for this just simple sake that you need to develop a relationship with a black person, if you really want to understand what this country really does, develop it. And not just a black person that fits your quota, who agrees with you. And, you know, find someone who, if I can sit there and talk to an officer who sits there and say if he doesn't like Black Lives Matter and develop a relationship with him and get to know him in the way that he thinks, then you can do the same for me. Yeah. I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely. important words for an important time.
Yeah. Genuine friendships is the key. Genuine friendships.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like each time that we talk, there's something that I learned that's new about you.
Oh, thank you.
And gives me even more of a reason why I consider you a friend.
You are my friend, Mark. You are my friend. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
And thanks to all the folks that joined us tonight from far and wide around the Seacoast. The big message here, the big takeaway is participate in these conversations. Listen, do some work. Do some work around education. And our hope is that this conversation will continue as we continue forward and think about how we make this a better place for all of us. So thank you, be well, be safe, and good night.
Thank you.